Welcome back, Bulls Nation, to another episode of Nothing But Bull. I'm your host, Derek, and as always, I'm here with my main man, Justin.
What's going on, Bulls Nation? Excited to be here yet again.
And of course, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. I am barely alive, so
Yeah,
a little late today, a little spazzy. So thank you for joining us.
there's all kinds of craziness that goes on in the background so that we can get this show created for you all. So we won't share all of it, but it's a whirlwind.
Effortless. I don't know what you're talking about, Justin. I mean,
it takes a lot of work to get all of this together. So
that is true.
I know the people are glad to see that Justin's no longer incarcerated.
Yeah, I'm not in prison anymore. So I was having to write letters to family members and friends because they were worried, but that's no longer the case. So I'm all good.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back. I'm glad I have my privileges. They're good. I can go to the bathroom and not have somebody else in there with me.
Back in the locker room.
Man, so what's going on with y'all today?
Everything is all right. Although I saw Melissa, like I have to ask you about this because I saw your picture on Twitter, and it was you with some Jurassic World fruit.
Yes.
What was going on?
Okay, so that's durian, and it's a tropical fruit, and it smells very bad. It's super pungent. That's what it's known for. Everybody knows it for smelling just terrible. It's so bad that they ban it from public transportation in a lot of parts of Asia. So that's what that was. It's a fruit. It's a tropical fruit. Smells really bad, but tastes really good, and it's good for you.
And you said that you were really proud of the fact that it smelled really bad. So were you using that to keep some people away from you, or was that you just love really rotten smelling things?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I mean, that's not a bad idea. Usually I go with pepper spray, but I mean, that's not a bad idea. I think you're onto something. It's not intentional though. I don't use it to ward off people. No, I don't. But it smells like, you know what it smells like? It smells like rotten onions.
Rotten onions, okay.
But the taste doesn't match the smell.
So that's weird because usually whatever it is that you were smelling is it tastes like how it smells.
Really?
But we're gonna take your word for it that it's perfectly good and not offensive to people.
So. I mean, it is offensive to people, but
it is offensive to people. Okay.
It tastes good though.
Sometimes you gotta offend people.
Right.
Like my smelly fruit, go sit somewhere else.
Right. It's like Dennis Rodman offended people. Joakim offended people. They're still really great, right?
That is true.
The great thing for us is that they offended people.
So yeah,
who wants to go to Cleveland?
You never heard anybody talk about I want to go on vacation in Cleveland.
Yeah, can I answer that on the air, Derek? That I did send the text. Was that okay? Well, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, you just did it. So.
Yeah, I did send it to Tony, and I just want to make sure that you all never send me anything techie to do ever again because I'm just so bad. It just came into my mind that I would need to send him an invite for the show for him to be able to that might be a little helpful. So don't leave that up to me anymore because I'll probably ruin it. We probably won't have any guests for the.
Did I miss something? You forgot to send the message? I missed that.
He said, do not give him the responsibilities of sending links and anything technical anymore.
Okay, we got you.
Because I sent the link to Tony, but that was like at 4:40. Like I sent it when you sent it to me. And I'm glad you sent it to me because I was like, wait a minute, that's actually my responsibility if I'm inviting somebody on the show. Like it would only make sense that I would send them the actual link to be able to log onto the show. So let's hope he actually gets it. How about that with my phone and everything?
We'll find out. We got a few minutes.
Yeah, well, while we wait to see if we have a guest this week.
Anyways, what else did you guys do this weekend? What's up? What were y'all up to?
I slept most of the weekend. Like I didn't do much. I was supposed to do some other things, but it didn't quite work out that way. And I've been running for a while, just with like a lot of busy, crazy stuff. But I did get like something happened to me before we like started the weekend for school. And I'm just gonna share this because it doesn't actually happen very often. But like a former student, her father actually stopped me, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you know what? I just wanted to tell you that like, my daughter, she doesn't like really like math, but like she like developed a love for math from being in your class." And like that never happens to me, like ever. Like I usually like have like a lot of interaction with like my students, but like very little interaction with parents after they've graduated, moved on to the next year. But that like nothing like great happened over the weekend, but like that just set my weekend like on fire. Like from Friday until like today, like I had just been thinking about that and how much I appreciated them saying that. So that really touched me. That was enough of a gift for me for the weekend.
That's huge. I mean, that's all it takes is just like a token of appreciation and just to know that like you're impacting somebody on that level. It's really cool. Still,
Yeah.
teachers, man, they're so important, as we always talk about. Shout out you.
So what about you? What happened with you?
My son's been on this new sleep schedule where he decides to wake up at 2 a.m. and stays up to about 9 a.m. So I've been up. And anything is possible. that's
Anything.
my weekend.
Is it anything or was it something else?
It's anything.
Anything.
Anything is possible.
My weekend was cool. I hung out with friends. I'm not gonna get into all these stories, but I went to a kids party. Crocs are life is what I learned. They were like, they had I don't know what those things are called, those jumping jack type things. And there were like 20 pairs of Crocs on the ground and all these kids screaming. So is that a thing? Like all the kids wear Crocs these days? Like I don't have any kids. So like I was just like in awe of all the Crocs, just like a Croc store on the lawn.
I have not seen anything like with kids wearing a whole bunch of Crocs at school. I haven't noticed that.
Okay, maybe it's like a Chicago thing then. Maybe, I don't know. And then I went to my other friend, she's like my sister, her father's birthday. So we just hung out at her parents' house. So that was cool. This morning I went for a bike ride. I had a flat tire, which was really awesome. And I'm here now.
All right, now I'm gritting my teeth because I forgot to send Tony the actual password to come in. So yeah, let me make sure that I do that.
Let's back up to the kids' party, which you were at when we were meeting to plan out this show. How did you drop your phone? Because in my mind, the kids came out, they found you, and they like forcefully dragged you out the car back to the party, and you dropped your phone.
You guys came up with a whole story. No, I had to go to the car to make sure I was in a quiet place, and I had my little my little phone holder on the steering wheel, and we were laughing. You guys are roasting me per usual because you're like, oh, you didn't really think you were going to be just a guest, did you? Ho, 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 ho. And that was the last thing I heard, and I was like, ha 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 ha, and then boop, my phone fell, and it was game over. So I'm like sitting there like, okay, it just died in the middle of the call, and the screen didn't break or anything, but I saw all the notifications coming in, and then we also have like, there's like a separate Bulls group chat, and I'm like in other Bulls group chats, so like I could see everything coming in, like all the notifications, and like it's just slowly creeping up, and I couldn't do anything with my phone. So, but it works now, kind of. It's time to upgrade, so gotta do that.
Yeah, Derek said you fell in the kiddie pool. So
I mean,
that's
it wouldn't have been too far fetched. It's happened before. So I like to get down. I like to get down. I play with the kids, you know, but sometimes I don't know my own age. And it could have happened. It could have happened. It was a plausible story, but it didn't happen. But I have a working phone now.
Glad that's working and that you were not attacked by an angry mob of kids.
That story might have been better though.
but
So
at least if
I was
you
walking right, and they attacked me with super soakers, and just kidding.
but if you were attacked by this mob of kids, it's good to know that you would have that stinky fruit next to you to repel them away.
I like how you tied that back in.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's my Seinfeld moment. Stuff goes off into crazy tangents, and we just find a way to bring it back together again. That's true. Well, maybe we should go ahead and get started because I don't even know. Like, you know my phone. Like, I don't know if things are going through correctly or what the deal is. So,
Okay. Well, since we don't know if we'll have a guest, maybe joining us, maybe not. But the big story with the Bulls would be a particular Giannis Antetokounmpo and his comments about possibly playing for the Bulls. Actually, I'm going to pull up the video.
I think anybody who asks that question that plays basketball, if he said no, he'd be a liar. You know, it's a team that won multiple championships. It's a team that one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player, to ever play this game played for. So it's a no-brainer. Everybody would love to play for Chicago. Down the line, you never know. You know, you never know how life brings it. Maybe I'll play for Chicago. But right now, I'm committed to Milwaukee.
Cap,
So,
cap.
Melissa says cap, cap, cap. Justin, what's your thoughts on that?
I take that as a shot at the Milwaukee front office, and you better keep giving me players to play with. That's what I take that as. It's a lot of pressure coming into Chicago, and you know, it's a lot of stuff to live up to. And I'm not saying that like Giannis isn't that type of player, but there's big expectations that come with coming to, you know, the city of Chicago. Everybody knows the legacy that Jordan has, and I think part of that might have been why some, you know, top level players possibly shied away. In addition to the fact that our front office was just terrible, which, you know, that might have had a little bit of a part to deal with it, but there's just a lot of pressure that comes with playing in this city. Of course, we all know that the fans are great and everything, but it's like living up to that legacy, being able to, you know, you come here and you are a superstar. You know, it's big expectations for you to bring home a championship. So I don't know if I necessarily buy what it is that he's saying, because I think also he's probably really comfortable being in Milwaukee because he's built something there. Now, that being said, I would love for Giannis to come and play with us, but yeah, I just don't. I'm not going to take too much stock into what he said on that video. That's
Yeah,
just me.
that's not something that would even be, I mean, that'd be like 3 years down the line from now too. Like so much can change within that time and he's going to be a different player. I'm sure he's still going to be a beast, but I mean, so much changes within that time too. So I think we just need to be like in the here and now, not worry about that. And it gives everybody something to talk about though, for sure. Everybody's like photoshopping, photoshopping a Bulls jersey on him, just like everybody else, like KD.
Yeah, I've seen because Giannis would be a free agent in 2026 at the age of 32, and people are saying, "Oh, 2026 plan, we're going to sign Giannis." I'm like, the guy was on a Chicago sports network. I'm sure they asked him if he would like to ever play for the Bulls, and he gave a politically correct answer. I put no stock into that, and I think there's zero chance of him coming.
I'm with you. I go with zero chance too. Of course, I mean, yeah, it just like they lean the question that way, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind coming to Chicago. Who wouldn't say that? Not many players would say, no, I'm not. I would never consider going to Chicago. I feel like most people would give that PC answer. So I'm with you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Derek.
Like, would you like to go to Chicago? No, I'd never go there. No players want to say that. They
Right.
could have asked him
Yeah,
about playing in New York, and he would have said, "Well, yes, a lot of history in Madison Square Garden. I could play for the Knicks." Nobody wants to play for the Knicks.
Exactly.
there's just
Sports network. I'm sure they asked him if he would like to ever play for the Bulls, and he gave a politically correct answer. I put no stock into that, and I think there's zero chance of him coming.
I'm with you. I go with zero chance too. Of course, I mean, yeah, it just like they lean the question that way, and it's like, oh, I wouldn't mind coming to Chicago. Who wouldn't say that? Not many players would say, no, I'm not. I would never consider going to Chicago. I feel like most people would give that PC answer. So I'm with you.
Right.
yeah. I don't know. Also, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Derek.
Like, would you like to go to Chicago? No, I'd never go there. No players want to say that. They
Right.
could have asked him
Yeah,
about playing in New York, and he would have said, "Well, yes, a lot of history in Madison Square Garden. I could play for the Knicks." Nobody wants to play for the Knicks.
Exactly.
there's just something to me also about, and of course we're talking about like years down the line, but there's just something about like being able to play against who is considered the best player or one of the best players in the NBA and beating them. You know, I don't necessarily want to have like a team of guys that we couldn't beat the way we are presently, put together. Like, I would love it to be we could take this group that we have and kind of climb over and reach that mountaintop. And then, like, afterwards, if people want to come in and, see what we can do, then that's one thing. But I I think that also goes into like how I feel about as far as stars playing together and all of this other stuff. Like, I'd rather see these guys competing against one another as opposed to just having a whole bunch of star players playing together on one team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We're all ready in this era where it's like the guys run from competition and they just decide, hey, we can win if we team up. It's like they want it easy. They want to hand it to them. That's why you see a lot of top players switching teams and demanding trades now.
Exactly. There's just a bunch of guys who there's it's funny. There's camaraderie between these guys and they get together, but it's like even in the situation that they find themselves that they built, and that take for example that Nets team, they you have this camaraderie of these people, and it's almost like they're kind of running away from playing against the better players. But then if they have their friends together, then they're fine. But it's like, as far as being able to go out there and compete against that competition and get to that level by themselves, like I don't understand how we've moved away from this point where guys are just afraid to like build their own team, not with somebody from another team who was a top player. But I don't understand where that mentality came into play. It's something that I know that the league is still trying to address as far as how they put these player contracts together. Because what we've seen from like the Brooklyn Nets, like how there's been difficulty with them trying to maneuver things because of like, for instance, Ben Simmons' situation with his deal that he's on. But yeah, I as a fan of the NBA, I don't necessarily like seeing that, and I hope that it's a trend that at some point will start to go the other way.
Yeah, bring us back to the old days when people stuck with their teams and wanted to win with their teams and not just build a super team, again, go the easiest route. Bring us back to those days.
I don't need you to win. I'm gonna beat you.
Exactly.
Now, hey, buddy, come here. You want to team up? We can win a championship if we're together.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I don't know, guys, because I went and DM'd Tony the link and the password, and still no Tony.
So wait, you had DM capabilities and you left it to me with this crappy phone that is not even getting text messages from the both of you. You left it up to me.
He was your guest.
Well, I mean,
that's an error on both of our parts, right?
when was the last time you talked to him or somebody talked to him?
I talked to him on it was Saturday night, I believe. It was either Saturday or Sunday night, and he was good to go. And I sent him the link as soon as I got it from you, Derek. So I hope nothing happened. But maybe like some scheduling conflicts came up or something.
Maybe your text just didn't go through.
I'm like, are we sure that he knew the right time zone?
Yeah, true. Do you remember saying
He pops in at 6 o'clock.
Justin, answer the question.
I should answer the question. I don't know if I did tell him that.
We asked you this earlier.
I don't remember you asking me.
Wow.
You see what happens when you leave this stuff up to me? This is like, let it be known, like. But when I sent him 5 o'clock, like he didn't say anything about anything else. So.
Well, it's not 5 o'clock there, Justin.
I get that. That is my fault. I was not.
We're gonna have to restart this at 6.
Yeah, we can't get all this content. Like, this is pretty good. We might just have to clip it. And
you want to clip it?
I mean, we might have to.
This is good stuff, though. Like,
yeah, we really have to clip this.
I can't redo all that. I'm struggling right now.
Well, you just sent him a message right now, though. You just DM'd him, right? So
I DM'd him and I've got nothing.
Nothing.
So he's probably like, why do they keep sending me this? I got 30 minutes.
Oh, man.
special guest is here in the waiting room. Gonna go ahead and admit him in. And we are being joined by NBC producer Tony Gill.
So guys, are we live? Are we on the air? Are we on the air right now?
Hello.
We are on the air.
Oh, okay, cool. What's up, guys?
Just jump right into it.
We had a technical difficulty issue with Justin not specifying time zones.
Yeah, just throw me under the bus while you're driving, Derek. I
I mean,
appreciate
is it really a technical issue though, or like, I don't
It
know.
certainly wasn't my fault.
No.
Right.
Right here. That's whose fault it was.
No, you're good. You're good. I just got done recording the podcast at the studio and forgot to turn the camera on. So yeah,
Oh,
No.
wait.
mistakes happen.
Wait, so tell us about that. When did you realize you turned the camera on?
Oh, after
Oh, it's all good.
after the podcast was done and I'm staring at the camera, I'm like, I don't think I turned that thing on.
They
But hey,
did
you know.
NBA Jam shirt.
Oh yeah,
They
My
didn't get
NBA
to
Jam
see
shirt.
that. The people didn't get to see that.
Yep, sponsored by Homage. You know, I got the Steph Curry, Clay, NBA Jam shirt. You know, I rock with Homage all day. So they came through with the shirt.
Light plug.
It's nice. Shout out to Homage. So Tony, you probably don't remember, but me and you were on a podcast like the start of the 2019 Bulls season.
Whew, man, that was forever ago.
And I was listening back to some of it the other day, and I cannot believe that we were optimistic about that team
I don't see why not.
with Chris Dunn and Lou Cornett.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was yeah. Sorry.
Tony, we're not gonna hold that against you. I think everybody back then drank the Kool-Aid in thinking that we were on the verge of like putting together like this incredible squad with a bunch of talent that was gonna be led by Luke Cornett. So we're not gonna hold that against you or anybody else.
To my credit, like Lauri Markkanen was on a trajectory, right? And then he ended up being a good player. Like right now in Cleveland, like he's a pretty good player. It's just, you know, he was miscasted here. There was certainly potential, but you know, you look at a young Lauri Markkanen and a young Zach LaVine, who you knew was going to be a NBA All-Star. There was some room for optimism, but you know, life.
Life and Jim Boylan.
Happy 2-year anniversary yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday to my guy Jimbo. Let's go.
The birthday of his firing.
That's more a celebration.
So Tony, with that being said, like, you know, obviously the Bulls, the talent level has changed, and I think we can all say for the betterment of the team. And there's been a couple of different changes that have happened so far this year with free agent signings and with the draft. So where do you fall with how things have progressed over that 2-year period since you and Derek last had that conversation with the Bulls?
I mean, it's night and day, right? I mean, there's a playoff trip in there. There were 2 all-star participants in there. There was an all-rookie participant in there. Like, a lot has changed over the course of the last 2 years for the betterment of the Bulls, right? They're culturally relevant now. They're not a joke of a franchise and of a roster. So, yeah, a lot has transpired and a lot of optimism, you know, in terms of this coming up season of what they could look like if healthy. And that there goes the caveat, right? Is if they are healthy, they will be a top 5 team in the East. And that's right now. I enjoy that being the biggest worry, right? Like, of course, we can, I don't know if you guys want to get into just the roster and things like that. There's stuff, to discuss for longer term, but in terms of this upcoming season, fans should be excited about heading to places where we haven't been in a long, long time in terms of at least, get through the first round. That hasn't been done in, since the Rose years. So, for this season, this should be a lot of fun basketball being played. If healthy. Sorry. I always got to say that.
Definitely health is like our biggest issue. And you speak the optimism that is around this team now is to where people are believing that we could at one point now sign Giannis Antetokounmpo after his comments yesterday.
I don't know why would you say that, man. It's like don't tease me like that. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you say that? And of course, it went viral. Of course, it got aggregated literally everywhere. Like, I'm sure Bucks fans and the Bucks organization isn't too happy that he put that out there. But yeah, man, it's like, just don't stop it. Don't say that. All right, just don't go there. Like, I'm all right with not being a first round exit. Like, don't give me hope. Like, just don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sure. He was probably just being nice and playing for the audience that he had. But what do you think? Like, do you think that like there's anything to put like a lot of stock in, or do you think he was more or less just being nice and or possibly sending a message to the Bucks organization? Do you think it like went that far, or was he just being nice?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was tongue in cheek. He's a very respectful athlete, not shutting down that question by which, in his right could have and probably should have. But, he answered the question and gave respect to the history of the Chicago Bulls, which is well-deserved. We all know that's why we're all here. The rich history of the Chicago Bulls. So he was being respectful to the question. But is there a chance? I mean, I'm not going to say there's a 0% chance because, you can ask for a trade, going in the second year of a multi-billion-dollar deal. So, anything's possible, I guess. But the likelihood of that happening, probably not. The Bucks are pretty well run, pretty good talent evaluators. They do a pretty good job of finding pieces to fit alongside Giannis. And they're proven, right? They got the championship. There's nothing proven here. You got, Zach LaVine. That's cool. You got DeMar DeRozan, which is cool, but we don't know how long that's going to last. And Billy Donovan has never won a major thing in his NBA career. So it's a lot of unknown here. And there's more known up there where he's at. And besides, like, Milwaukee and Chicago is a short trip. I'm sure he's got a home somewhere in Chicago or near the Chicagoland area that he could just, if he wants a big city vibe, he could just drive if he wanted to experience a big city. So he's kind of got the best of both worlds up there. So it would go against everything that we've known about Giannis in terms of his loyalty, in terms of what he's about personally as an individual. So I thought it was a bit more tongue in cheek.
Stop the Photoshops, Bulls Nation. You don't need all these pictures of Giannis in a Bulls jersey, giving people false hope.
They were quick to put that one up, as always. Got the KD ones and the Giannis ones now. But yeah, I agree. It's just, we were talking about that earlier, like, who's really going to say, no, I don't want to go to Chicago. It's never going to happen. Like, nobody's really going to say that. Rarely will anybody say that if they're asked, would you be open to it? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's happening. I said 0% chance earlier. Okay, let me get like a 1% chance. But I don't think so. I don't think it's happening. Just focus on what's going on now.
So Tony, we pulled you right into like the Bulls talk, and we started off with like the little rumor with like Giannis and everything, but we didn't give you an opportunity to talk about yourself a little bit. So can you tell us
why?
Because you're the guest on the show. People people want to hear about like your background and your story and everything with the different projects that you were on. So can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings and getting into this workload that you were in?
Yeah, so I got in probably around 2022, 23. I had like is there a midlife crisis for young people? What is that? Is there a name for that?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe
Maturity.
Well, I had one of those. I have a degree in computer networking from the now defunct Robert Morris University. So I don't even know if it's legit anymore. But I went to school for computers, and it didn't feel right. I was good with computers or whatever, but I didn't enjoy it, and that was like one of my worst fears, even as a kid. If you ask my parents, that was one of the top three things that I was scared of: Ozzy Osbourne, Michael Jackson, and not having a job that I love. Those were my top three fears of all time. So, and I tried to just kind of grin and bear it. It's like, oh no, maybe this is what adults do. They just get up and do what they don't necessarily like, but they do it for the job and for the money. And I was like, nah, I got to get out. So I took a break, and I knew that I enjoyed talking sports. I enjoyed listening to good conversation, just not in sports, but majority in sports. So I'm working in a mailroom for a hospital, and I'm always listening to 670 Scores, my favorite station. And I was like, I think I could do that. What, you just press a couple buttons, like boom, 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 give out opinions, and we all good. So and boom, from there, it just kind of shot up to where I wanted to be. Got an internship at the Score, and then that's where kind of everything just kind of started snowballing for me. From there, spent probably 4 or 5 years there. Now at NBC, where we have our podcast network, and we just opened up our podcast studio last couple weeks. So yeah, that's kind of how things got going for me.
You see, kids, you can get someplace too just by pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Well, I think kids these days are already pushing a lot of buttons, so it's certainly a goal they can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter actually mentioned he was like, I don't think that there's any podcast I've listened to that Tony's not involved with. So how many podcasts are you involved with, do you think?
Well, we got 5 in the network for all the teams, except for the Sky. I'm still working on that. I do Sports Adjacent with Jason Leisure and Russ Dorsey. I do Jason Goff's podcast, The Full Go, Under the Ringer. I produce that. I produce a movies podcast called 10 Movies. And I think that rounds about it. And then I do some little stuff. I make personal podcasts for people, so if they want to hire me directly, where they want to tell their story or interview a family member or anything of significance, I'll flip it, make into an audio movie type situation. So those come up sporadically. But yeah, that's about all I do podcasting wise. So on top of doing some voiceover stuff for NBC, commercials, and just about a bunch of fun stuff digitally that I like to delve into, where like I just want to show people that, hey, you just don't have to fit in a box or a little lane of just producer or talent. Like you can be both. You can contribute on multiple levels to a company or creating your own platform like you guys are doing right here. Like it's so much more than just cracking open a mic and talking. Like there's many avenues to this and creating great content. So
What do you think is like the best way or easiest way to create opportunities for yourself? Like what are some of the most important things that you can impart on everybody that would be the most important?
are you having fun? Um, I think that's the most important, and because you may can get away with it on television if you have the proper training. But if you're just listening to somebody's voice, the audience can tell if you're being authentic or not, if they listen long enough. And they'll tell if you are enjoying what you're doing, or you're just doing it just because, or you think it's cool, or you think you'll get you some clout or something like that. Um, Being authentic and having fun is the most important thing, because that's the first thing people can tell. Once you are, in your heart you're having fun, in your heart that you're having a good time, then you can delve into, okay, now how do I, make it a good product? How do I package it and format it in the best way? And the best ways to do that is just to listen to a bunch of other stuff. I had no idea going into this, like how to make good radio, how to make good conversation, how to create a bit, how long does a bit last, like all the nuances of what makes a good show and good content. You will learn that eventually through, as you keep putting in the hours, and putting in the time to kind of hone and craft the skill. And it's an everyday thing. Every day, people need, if you want to do this, you got to be thinking of, okay, how do I get better? Okay, what do I need to do to get better? If I was doing a show today, what would I be talking about if you don't have a show? Like, there's a lot of mental exercises and mental things that you could do to get better, but also just listening to a lot of different things. I try to listen to a wide range of, and watch a lot of content, YouTube, TikTok, different styles of podcasting, storytelling, Netflix, move, like try to consume as much as I can. And in those, I can create the lane that I want to be in, or the type of content that I want by consuming a lot of content. And I get, that's just works for me. I get some people, they're like, I don't want to listen to anybody else's stuff, or like I don't want to take anybody. Like, I totally get that as a process, but I like to feel, what are the people enjoying? What are the people gravitating to? And what's my version of that? And not, exactly copying off somebody else, but what is the Tony Gill version of what I'm consuming here? How can I make this mine? What would I do differently? And all that thinking, all of that is fun to me. So I would say start with having a lot of fun, enjoying what you do, and then start paying attention to, okay, what are the tactical things that these bigger platforms, these bigger podcasts, these bigger shows are doing that I can replicate on my level to ensure that my product is just as professional looking, just as professional sounding as the rest.
Cool. I mean, speaking on like the different podcasts you've done, we know you did that documentary style podcast about the murder of James Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
What did you?
Hey, you guys going
what did you learn about
back?
that?
You guys are going back, man.
I mean, we did the research. We had to. We're digging in the crates.
Yeah. That was a fun venture. That was the very first time I ever done anything like that. I was just strictly doing all radio, all sports content, and but I was, again, still listening to other styles and other ways to produce content and storytell. So this one was a joint venture with Julie DeCaro, who is now an author of her book. I think it's called Sideline, which is, you should probably read that. It's really, really good about her journey through sports. But yeah, it was a joint venture. It was cleared by my boss, Mitch Rosen, at the time at 670 The Score. And it was fun. It was very, very interesting getting to investigate some things and, uncover some details that I don't think you heard or seen anywhere else, in terms of Michael Jordan's father being murdered. We talked to so many people, so many lawyers on both sides of the case, witnesses. We had a witnesses drop out because she was scared. Like, it was like a big, big thing, and very, very interesting to do. And we wanted to, make sure that we respected how we were doing it, that we weren't just fishing for clickbait or anything like that. Like, we were genuinely interested in what happened here. And for me, as I'm 29, I was young at the time, so I had no idea, like no clue what the details are. Very sketchy to me even now. Like, some of the details are really sketchy. There are a couple other podcasts, maybe one other podcast and a couple other exposés on this, but ultimately, it's still like that guy's still in jail. The guy that was convicted of the murder of James Jordan, he's still in prison, even though the evidence is pretty shaky, in my opinion, and what we've kind of gone over during that series. But it was really, really fun. I think that was my first voiceover start where I got to read and present on a platform. So that was fun as well. And got to talk to the guy who was convicted through his lawyer through the prison. So that was very, very interesting, very, very fun. But I think one thing that I tried to keep in that is that you're still dealing with people, and this is a tough subject for a lot of people involved. So just paying respect to the people in there and trying to do it the right way, and just want to tell what that story was to a generation that may not have known that this happened in the prime life of Michael Jordan.
So you said that was your first voiceover work and like a documentary style reading off. So the people can expect you to do another one when the Bulls win a 7th championship, right?
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. We got to get there first. I did one for NBC. It for the anniversary of Michael Jordan returning for the first time, called "I'm Back," and that did really, really well. I still think it is. It's the most downloaded individual episode of a podcast in NBC's in NBC history, not just NBC Sports Chicago, but in NBC history. It received very, very well. I would check that out. It's very interesting. We talked to a bunch of people. We uncovered that Jordan was practicing with the Golden State Warriors right before he announced him coming back, and we have the stories of what happened during that practice. That was super, super interesting. I would check that. That was my next venture into voiceover. That's when I was in my bag. I was really feeling myself on that one. So I would definitely suggest that people go check that out. That was a fun episode to do. I think they changed the feed, but the episode is still out there. It's called Sports Uncovered, Michael Jordan, I'm Back. And check that out. It was very fun to do. Got to work with a lot of people, got to talk to a lot of people. So that was fun as well.
Well, in order for us to get to that 7th championship, we know that the Bulls have a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
But there's surrounding the team, there's been like a lightning rod of conversation. Like people have questioned whether or not the Bulls should have offered LaVine as much money as he received. We have the packages where people were thinking about maybe the Bulls using P. Will in order to get another star on this team. And then there's obviously what's happening with Kobe, trying to see if he is a future asset on this team. What do you think about where the Bulls stand right now, as far as, this team kind of evolving around Zach and moving forward with the pieces that they have?
And here's when like the reality check hits in, right? As much as this season is going to be fun if they stay healthy, the long-term issues are that they just don't have enough to really compete the way they want to. And it's no disrespect to the current roster, but it's just kind of what it is. Like there's four to five teams you could say that are better than the Bulls this year and are in a better position to win long-term than the Bulls. So there's certainly still work to do in terms of what they need. As much as we all love the Wilt Chamberlain Jordan-esque season that DeMar DeRozan just had, in terms of efficiency and all that, I don't think you can depend on that for the long term. I mean, he's already in his mid-30s. He's certainly taking care of himself. He takes care of his body. It's definitely a smart, high IQ player, but you just can't expect that he's going to pull off another season or another 2 seasons like that, go for an extended possible championship run. So now what are you looking at? You're looking at Zach LaVine, right? Who's locked in, which if the Bulls didn't offer him everything that they could have in terms of the ability to re-sign him, he was definitely going to look elsewhere, which he should have. You brought this, or you stabilized this organization enough where you're not a complete joke. Teams still have to respect his play when they go out and face opponents. So he deserved it. He deserved it. Now, what do they do after that? Like everything, well, not everything. I'm not going to say everything. That's a lot of pressure. But a lot of this resides on the backs of Patrick Williams, right? I mean, Vooch could possibly not be here, or he may age out. DeMar DeRozan, I don't feel comfortable enough to depend on that for the next 2 or 3 years. Zach LaVine is locked in. Kobe White could be a potential trade piece. Ayo is going to be really good, I hope. And I hope Dalen Terry, but we just don't know because they're just so young. So right now, it's kind of when you're making that push in free agency, right? In the next 2 seasons or the next season or whatever the case may be, and you're presenting to whatever said superstar is available via free agency at the time, and you're looking at the roster and say, hey, we got you. We got some Zach LaVine. We got some Patrick Williams. Now, how comfortable do you guys feel presenting that to a Giannis in that situation for a potential championship run? Like, that doesn't feel good at all.
Well, is Lonzo healthy included in this?
And that's another thing. I forgot about Lonzo because he's just never around. Like, he's never played more than 60 games in a season before. So, again, another reason to be skeptical about this roster construction for the future and for the long term. And I get that, hey, GarPax, they got 20 years or so, or almost 20 years to figure something out, like why we should be patient with them, and we should, but that was an unprecedented amount of waiting in the previous regime. I'm not so delusioned to believe that it's going to take another 20 years or almost 20 years to figure this out. Like, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't, especially with the backgrounds that AK and Mark Eversley have. They need to turn this around in the coming years where they're a legit contender. And we've been in, middling hell, right? With the Kurt Heinrich, Ben Gordon years, right? We've been 6 seeds. Like, it's cool when you get there initially, but after a while, it's like, all right, like, what are we doing here? Really? Like, what are our aspirations? And if it's to win a championship, as of right now, this roster just isn't it. So I just see this coming season as just a stepping stone to hopefully them figuring some things out in terms of what they have long term. So they have a direction that we can present to the rest of the league. Like, hey, we got something brewing here. You should be a part of this. You should want to be a part of what's going on in Chicago. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. That's the thing that I'm kind of interested in to see, because I kind of got a feeling what the season's going to be this upcoming season. So I'm just kind of just enjoy it for what it is. But after this season, there's going to be serious questions as to Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley as to, okay, you've been to the playoffs, mission accomplished. How are you going to win a championship?
Do you think the front office did everything they could possibly do to acquire like some bigger players or fill some of those gaps? I mean, we, as usual, didn't dip into luxury tax. Do you think that the Bulls did everything they could to acquire some different pieces to fill those spaces, or do you think players didn't want to come, or what are your opinions?
I think that they did, and I think that they know what we all know, but they just can't say it. And what I mean by that is, I don't think they necessarily believe this is a championship team either. And I think therein lies why they don't dip into the luxury tax, why they don't go deeper in terms of. Michael Reinsdorf has said, if the team is worth it, we will go over the tax. I don't think this team is worth it. So I don't begrudging them for not doing it because they, in my opinion, my earliest opinions of after they made the Vooch trade, I thought it was a bit too aggressive. I didn't think the timing was right. It was just so much that they needed to fix that trading Vooch, trading off all the assets, and then adding DeMar DeRozan, again, it didn't feel like a natural progression. It felt a little bit forced just to say that we made it to the playoffs, which is fine, but you also got to deal with the consequences on the back end of those deals, right? Where is this team going to be in 2 or 3 years? I don't know. Like, I hope Zach is still healthy. I hope it doesn't blow up anybody's faces and he's asking for a trade. And again, this is worst case scenario. There's a bright spot, right? Zach improves, becomes a fantastic two-way player, becomes emphatically the best player on the team, where they're not pointing at a 34, 35-year-old DeMar DeRozan as the best player on the team. Patrick Williams shows up to be a future all-star. Like, there's definitely opportunities for them to show the rest of the league that we have something going on. But also there's another universe where it goes the opposite direction, where health becomes another factor going into this season, where the flaws are definitely shown throughout the roster, where they don't really have much rim protection and 3-point shooting. They didn't really address that. So I think that they did all they could according to what they built. Now it's all on them. This is all them, right? I'm not giving them any excuses. This is the roster that they created. This is the roster that they wanted. But in terms of going over the luxury tax and spending a bit more, I don't think there was a real true avenue to do that. And I honestly believe in their heart of hearts that this roster isn't there just yet.
There's one thing though that I would say, and I'm not trying to push back on anything, but I would say that
push back.
Well,
push me.
Okay, I will push you. No, I'm just joking. But one thing I think, well, actually a couple of things that I think is working within the Bulls' favor is the fact that when you look around the league, we can't really say that there is definitively a team that is going to be winning the championship. Like, we can't put a pinpoint on that, because when we look at last year, Golden State, supposedly it was supposed to be a down year for them. Maybe a year and a half ago, we were talking about the Lakers, running roughshod through the league, possibly with AD and with LeBron. We look at other teams out west that weren't necessarily healthy, like Denver. Memphis also wasn't quite healthy when they were going up against the Warriors, and they actually gave the Warriors fits in that playoff series. The Celtics weren't necessarily I don't think anybody was looking at them and thinking this is a team that is definitely going to go to the championships. And I just have to say, I was reading something online that I didn't really think about it. I thought about it, but it quite hit home when the person pointed out 63. And it said it was 63 minutes that the Bulls roster, that starting unit, has played together. So I'm just going to say, from the opposite end, looking out, we don't necessarily know what this team is really capable of. Like, we got a good flash of it, but that was a flash that we saw without having Patrick Williams in the starting lineup and just having some mismatched parts. We had a lot of guys who should have been, on the bench someplace and like playing in that reserve role, playing starters minutes. Do you think that could factor into what the Bulls are capable of doing this year, as far as like being able, and I know we talked about health, but just as far as being able to play together more this year?
Well, I think that that it's a fair point. I think my pushback to the pushback is those teams still made it to the playoffs and they still looked, relatively good. Like Boston down the stretch, wasn't healthy. My thing is, the way this roster is, there's not room for a lot of error. Those teams that you mentioned, like Denver, they had an MVP. Like they have a lot of room for error. When the Bulls, I don't think they do. They need to be healthy. You saw them when, usually in the beginning of the year, like for a team that has actually things that they want to get accomplished postseason, the regular season is a chess game. The whole season is a chess game. Can I keep my stars healthy? Can we work on things that during the season, during real game matches, that we can benefit from later in the season? Nick Nurse is the best at that. We'll throw out a 3-2 zone. Who's doing 3-2 zones just on a regular, like, we'll just throw it out there during a regular season game. Like, the Bulls had to press the gas every single game to get to where they were. There wasn't really much room for them to work out and try out some different things schematically in order to get to where they are. So when it got real, when the real winning needed to happen in the second half of the season, where injuries are a factor, where teams are prepping for the playoffs, the Bulls were not prepared. And some of that is on Billy, and some of that is on health. So I think in terms of, yes, if healthy, the Bulls can be better than what we projected, definitely. But I look at histories. I look at, like, again, the Lonzo point. He hasn't played 60 games ever. Like, that's a thing. That's going to be a thing, maintaining. And if you're maintaining him, how many minutes is he going to get with the roster? The Goran Dragic signing, that was a sign to me. That means, well, you got Ayo. He was all right. Maybe he takes a step up. But no, they went after a backup point guard for a reason. And I think it's because I don't know how sure they are that Lonzo's going to be around enough to stabilize the team. So I think more so than a lot of the teams, let's just say in the East, what we're looking at, that can survive without playing their guys every day. Miami, right? Their guys missed a lot of games, and then they still come up big in the playoffs. I think the Bulls have a lot to worry about in terms of the health. I think that's a huge factor for them. If they get that straight, now the next thing is, okay, let's work on some stuff in the middle of the season to help us for a longer playoff run. And that's the level that I need them to get at. I need them to know that we're going to the playoffs. What are we going to do once we're there? You work that out in the regular season, but they can't even get the health part correctly to actually get to that next level of chess match during the regular season. And that's what I want to see. That's what I hope that they get to this season.
Yeah, you mentioned them going after Dragic, and he told, I think it was like his native reporter in his language, that he chose the Bulls because they promised him about 20 minutes a night. And we were all like, how's he going to get 20 minutes if you got Lonzo and you got Ayo? But yeah, to your point, if that signing was like insurance policy for Lonzo not being ready, then I could definitely see Dragic being played 20 minutes a night. So you think that them giving him that time slot was more of a, we don't know what Lonzo is going to be with health?
Yeah, I think it's actually two things. I think the one is they needed some insurance a little bit for Lonzo. But I think also to a point that was mentioned earlier by Melissa, was the Bulls need to do a little bit extra to get these guys to sign, at least right now, because they haven't proven anything, right? You look at the Derrick Jones Jr. deal and the Andre, where they got a player option on the second end to bench players. Like, what? Like, they still have to take that extra step that other teams don't necessarily have to do in order to get players. So promising him 20 minutes fits that narrative of the Bulls need to go a little bit above and beyond the normal dealings to get players that they desire, or people that they desire, right? They gave Billy Donovan the richest contract at the time because they wanted him, and it was the only way that they were going to get him. On top of, roster say and whatever other, minutia that they worked out in terms of verbally, but they felt like they needed to assure him other things because, look, the Bulls aren't winning a championship here, just being honest, right? So that couldn't be the reason why Dragic decided to come here. Oh, the Bulls are just a me away from getting to that next step. That's not gonna happen. So he's going to play a lot of minutes here. He's going to play a lot of minutes, and we saw something similar, right? When the Bulls got Thad Young, and he made us think about it. It's like, hey, this is not what I was promised, and then it leaked out, and now Thad Young is a six man and borderline starting. So the Bulls certainly have to protect themselves from any risk that Lonzo may have or may not have, depending on where he's at in his rehab. But also, I think that that opportunity of ensuring Goran Dragic, if he goes to Dallas, he may not play clutch minutes. He may not play those close minutes because you got a ball handler. You got Luka there. If he goes to another championship team, you don't necessarily need him out there on the court, especially, with him defensively. So the Bulls, they say, hey, buddy, come on down to Death Row Records. We got you. We won't be all up in your videos. We'll let you rock because they have to, because they don't have the history yet of sustained success.
Is that why we're not playing on Christmas Day?
Oh yeah. I was not surprised. Like,
but
they don't really. They don't. I mean, it's New York. Like, they should have went Brooklyn. They absolutely should have went Brooklyn Philly. There's no reason why Brooklyn Philly should not have been a Christmas Day matchup. That was a layup that they didn't take. But yeah, like the Bulls aren't as the relevancy has jumped over the last year or so, they still don't have household names. Like Zach LaVine isn't a household name. DeMar DeRozan is a household name. So, it's Chicago, right? It's a great market, but they could put a better team out there that's in a smaller market and get ratings and views. I just don't think the Bulls have that go-to superstar where fans across the world that watch the NBA are like, oh man, Zach LaVine's playing. Like, where's the remote? Like, nobody's doing that just yet. I think they need that guy. I don't think Zach is going to be that guy. So yeah, I was cool with them not playing on Christmas. It's fine. That's a day off work for me.
I don't know. I feel like the fan base is huge. Like, everybody's coming out of the woodwork. Like, I think the fan base is worldwide, even though we don't have, as you're saying, I mean, I'm not going to agree with you completely on it, but our fan base is huge. Like, we've been through some rough times. I think everybody's just ready to watch a new trajectory, and I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed. I am disappointed. I am disappointed that we didn't have.
Well, their second half and the way they bowed out in the playoffs, I don't think helped their cause. With Milwaukee kind of putting them in their place like that, and the second half that they had, it just didn't feel like, well, are the Bulls there? Well, that second half was kind of, like I could see them in that meeting room. Like, what do you guys think about the Bulls? I'm like, do they got Zach LaVine yet? No, we got to wait a couple weeks. Oh, okay, he's there. Who else? So I could see them just kind of pondering, like, okay, do we put them or the number one market, in there, that just made a big splashy move, which, whatever, Knicks are going to nick. But
did you just say Brunson was a big splash?
Knicks.
Them? For them.
Jalen Brunson.
You just said Brunson.
For them, yeah. For them, look, Knicks are going to nick. And I enjoy the Knicks nicking. Like, it's fun for me. I get a laugh out of it. Like, you paid that much for Jalen. Now, shout out to Jalen, from the crib. So, I appreciate it, but like, the Bulls aren't there just yet to be like, oh man, we got to get him in there. This isn't Rose, right? This is the Rose years where people around the world knew who Derrick Rose was. The Bulls aren't there just yet, despite the large fan base.
No,
But
Tony, people aren't watching the games because there's no way you can convince me that people are rushing to the TV set to see Brunson play. Like, I don't care.
It's the Knicks. It's
No.
New York.
I don't buy that one.
It's New York. Hey man, like I get emails on ratings. I know how this stuff works, man. Like, they want whatever happens in New York to be on television because it truly having New York somewhere holds a lot of weight. So
Yeah, I've seen that the Knicks have had the most Christmas Day games in NBA history.
Hmm.
It's like a tradition of suffering of no other kind.
And on
So,
that note,
Yes, they're quiet.
all right,
um,
so we're looking at the Bulls like as far as like we talked about like the predictions for right now. One thing that did jump out at me when we were talking about preparation, you went immediately to like Nick Nurse.
Hmm.
Do the Bulls have that guy on the bench that you think is going to help them get to the level that they need to get to?
Ooh, man. You know, I work for the station that partners with the Bulls.
So tread lightly, like
I'll say this: Billy Donovan has had Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and hasn't won a championship. Um, when I see how they were losing games last year and in the playoffs, um, I have a lot of questions for Billy Donovan. In terms of how schematically he plans to progress this team on his end. Because again, health is a key, but also I need a little more from Billy. I can't have him be getting out coached in situations. Especially, I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer if he's not already. Um, he's a very smart guy, explains the game very well. Uh, in game though is what I'm worried about. Where once games get later in the season, the games get closer. You see the disparity, the difference between him and certain coaches, right? Where the Bulls offense devolved into, okay, DeMar, do your thing. And then that was it. You didn't see any backdoor action. You didn't see anything happening on the other side of the court to keep teams not staring down what DeMar's doing. I just need, and I always say this, and Layla reminds me that Layla Rahimi always reminds me that I say this is I just need basketball players to do basketball player things, right? Instead of standing, like just don't stand. And I don't know if that's a player fault, but I'm gonna put that on Billy. How are you coaching this team with or without injuries? Look, guys are going to be missing. That's what happens in the regular season. How are you prepping these guys that when Lonzo goes down, how do you fill that gap? You may have to do something a little bit differently. That's cool. That is how you raise the level of play of your team, despite who's in and who's out. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing Billy Donovan do this year. Is how do you prep this team for a deep playoff run? Like, I think the Bulls fans are okay. We won some regular season games. It's cool to win regular season games, but Bulls fans seeing Jordan and Pep and what actual winning looks like and actually scheming looks like. The Bulls fans want that. The Bulls fans aren't accepting of a low level tier of basketball here. And it showed, right? The hashtag fire guard packs thing, like the fans are very, very outspoken about what they want from this organization, from this team. So there is a certain curiosity as to, okay, Billy, you got Zach now locked in. You have your stars locked in. Okay, how are you going to use them? How do you get the most out of Vooch? Right? Career lows, a lot, even though he almost averaged a double-double, but still ineffective in, in certain situations in close games. So I need to see that from Billy this year. I'm not going to say I don't think it's there on the bench just yet. I'll give him this year to figure it out to see if things change offensively and defensively in terms of how they game plan against teams, especially late in the season. So I'm very much interested in seeing what Billy Donovan does and how he progresses as a coach this year.
Yeah, it was a fair criticism because there's a lot of times in games where we had the lead and you see the other team starting to come back and he still got the bench guys in, and you're like, okay, they're going on a run.
Mm-hmm.
Could have called a timeout of 2 or 3 plays ago and get your star players back in.
Yeah, a lot of PS, a lot of nervousness from the Boylan years with that. Right? Where it was like, oh man, the Bulls got a 20-point lead. Psych. Like, oh man, it kept happening in the second half of the season. Then again, once the playoffs started, fortunately they didn't slide too far to like 7 and 8 or had to play in the play-in. That would have been just awful from being the number 1 seed to the play-in. That would have been terrible. But it showed in that playoff game. Like, they're not ready to play on that level yet.
Yeah, Billy's definitely a player's coach. It's I do wish there was more urgency around his moves. I mean, there's like a lack of rotations, right? Like that's frustrating for everybody. We just see him chewing his gum a lot more aggressively when things start hitting the fan. It's like, okay, are we gonna do anything other than that, or are we just gonna keep the same lineup? And so I agree. I'm with you on that too. Hopefully there's some changes that are made. I'm sure he's heard all the criticism from every different direction, and hopefully that changes. But it is also too, I think, having to do with like the talent we had last year. So I think it's like it is a little bit of both. But we'll have more pickups this year to see more people to be able to pick up the slack. I hope.
I did have a question for you guys. The way that Arturas went after and fawned over Billy Donovan, if he can't make that next step or can't be that coach that Nick Nurse is, that Ime Udoka was last year, do you think he could move on from him after saying so much about Billy, after giving him the largest contract? Do you think he'd be able to recognize, like, hey, he may be the coach that gets us from A to B, but we need somebody to get us from B to C?
Well, I'll just say from this standpoint, just going back to like Donovan himself, part of like our frustrations with Donovan has to fall back on the players that he's had. Like, and I'm not saying that like I'm pro Donovan or I am against Donovan. I'm just laying out the facts. If you are a superstar player in the playoffs, and we consider Russ and KD superstar players, and you were up 3-1 on a team trying to get to the finals, I'm going to push back on them and say, hey, that's something that you all have to figure out. Because it wasn't their first time that they were, on their way to the final. We forget, when they were younger, that OKC team, although they had Harden, that team did know how to get to the finals. They didn't obviously win the finals, but I'm thinking I'm from my own standpoint. If you're a superstar player and you're up 3-1, you got to go in and figure it out and do what you need to do. Granted, yes, you do have coaches and that can put you in better positions to succeed. But on the flip side, I'm going to say, well, he got you to 3-1. So as players, I think that there's like, some onus that needs to be put on them to accept that responsibility. Now, that being said, as far as like, would they move off of him? I think looking at the way that this front office has operated just in general, if they were going to move off of him, we probably wouldn't know. This is a front office that moves in a lot of secrecy. Like, there's a lot of things that were going on that we just did not know, the moves that were coming down. So just from my own standpoint, I'm thinking if they were going to do that and they had their eye on somebody, we'd probably be the last people to know.
I mean, I think they will have to take accountability for it because, I mean, they have most of the fan base's buy-in as of right now, and we're all going to try and see what happens this season. But of course, the best thing to do would just be like to just own up to it, right? So we'll see where that goes. But I think they should be able to move on from it. There weren't really too many options. Like, it's like solution based. Like, there are people complaining about Billy, but then where were we supposed to go? Like, who should they have picked up instead of Billy last season? So I think last season, I mean, he was probably the best we could have gotten. And I think the team overall did pretty well considering that was their first season together. And I'm hopeful that there'll be improvement this year, so that's where I'm at.
Hopeful that it'll be an improvement, but if it's not, I think they would move on from him. Just like you just said, like you got us from A to B, but now we need to go from C to D. And no, Jerry Krause did that with Doug Collins getting them from A to B, and then it was Phil Jackson who took them from C to D. So I think this isn't the Garpax regime, so they would know that we're going to move on from him because we're going to get somebody that's going to do better and not, hey, we're going to move on from Tibbs and go get our buddy Fred Hoiberg.
Tony doesn't seem pleased.
No, no, I just want to get you guys thoughts on that. I mean, I don't. They talk the big game. It's just they put a lot of lip service on how bad they wanted, and it's just tough for me to think that they be that much of a shark to be like, I know what we said, but like I just don't see that from them. You know, they're sticking with Patrick Williams, right? They're like, even though like there's some questions to be had there. Like he's gonna have to answer a lot of questions, Patrick Williams does, but they put him off, you know, he's not tradable. Like any conversation that they had, Patrick Williams was not on there for them. So it's still early, you know, a little early to see you know how they operate, but you know, this is a big year. This isn't just make the playoffs year. This is okay, what are you gonna do once you get there year? And then once we see what they do when they get there, now there's more questions, right? Like how are they gonna add? How do you refocus? What's the next step that needs to be taken if a lot of your salary is dedicated to Zach, Lonzo, you know, and Vooch, who would be a free agent. But, you know, I'm looking forward to it. I know that.
Yeah, I seen somebody on Twitter the other day. They were saying that Patrick Williams is on Laurie watch for them. Like, is that a fair comparison of how Laurie his potential to what he was for us?
You know what's funny? Jason Goff brought this up on the Bulls Talk podcast the other week when I think we disrespect Laurie by, you know, kind of comparing him to Patrick Williams at this point, because Laurie had that month where we thought he was godsend, where it was like 25 and like 11 with like, you know, shooting 40 from three. I think that was like 2018 February or something like that, or 2019 February, something like that. So Laurie had that stretch where we thought that he could be a dude. He hasn't even come close to that, Patrick Williams, of having a stretch like that. So I think we disrespect Lauri Markkanen by doing that to him. Like, Patrick has a lot to prove, and I get that, you know, there's Lonzo when he's out there, he has the ball a lot. And of course, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, they have the ball a lot. But just even defensively, right? Like he's got all the physical, he's a big dude. He's got like long wingspan and, you know, this real solid base. Like there's a reason why people were comparing him to Kawhi Leonard, like massive hand size. Like he has all the tools. It's just up here, can he be aggressive? Up here, can he figure it out where he fits in to contribute most on the basketball court? And that's going to be a big tell. Like, yes, you're playing with two players that's offensively better than you. Where do you fit in? Right? You're going to get these starter minutes. Like, you can't have, you know, 2 points. Like, come on, bro. Like, there's things out here to be had for you to go get your top 5 pick in the draft, right? That comes with a lot. That comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of expectation, albeit. I get that. But you got to go out there and do something, man. Like, go be a thing. Go be a thing. Like, I mean, New Orleans, they got Herb Jones, right? Like, defensive. He was getting all defensive team votes. I mean, I need him to be something. If you're going to be the defensive guy, be that. If you're going to be offensive rebound, play off the ball, sharp cut guy, be that. I just don't want to go after this season be like, what do you guys think of Patrick Williams? Like that is worst case scenario, is not knowing at this point what can he contribute to winning.
I actually listened to a podcast you were on too, and they were asking about like your feelings on when we got the news about picking up Pat Williams, and you're like, who?
I mean,
we're feeling like we got the same sentiments like throughout the season. We're still at the same spot with that. In your opinions on him?
Yeah, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he does on basketball court. I know he plays basketball. All right, question for you guys. If you had to say, what does Patrick Williams do? What would you say? I rest my case.
There's
I mean,
I think it's not fair to say, because there were so much like inconsistencies with the roster this year. So I feel like if he had a more consistent role and he knew what he was supposed to do, like he knew what he was supposed to do. He's also so young, not to give all these excuses, but there were just so many injuries and people were just like throwing around left and right. And he was injured for how long? Like most of the season. So I think he still obviously has a lot of room to find his way. Hopefully it'll be this year, but last year, we didn't get to see too much. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm seeing him in the off season and the things that he's doing, and it's not the same as the actual season, but what we're seeing from there is looking promising.
I don't think that it can be just like, what does he do? Like, as far as what Melissa was saying, because he was asked to do so much in his rookie year. And then in that second year, we didn't really get a chance to see what he was capable of doing. I think, and this is just from my opinion, I think that we might see more of him like taking a leap with the starters unit, but possibly being able to showcase his skills more with that second unit once Zach and DeMar go to the bench, and just letting him kind of do his thing and operate. And then the rest of those guys kind of feeding off of that with him leading the way. I do think that there's a lot of his skill set, because I rely on what players are saying. And from what players have said around the league, especially with what he was able to do playing against that Olympic team, in those what do you call those?
Scrimmages?
Yeah, those scrimmages. There was a lot of positive feedback coming from players, a lot of positive feedback coming from the coaching staff, just other coaches in general, saying that this guy is a dude. He just, he hasn't been in a system coming from Florida State where everybody was going to be averaging pretty much like 7 or 8 points. Coming from that system where he's kind of got to flip that switch. And I think part of the thing is playing on this Bulls team, we have a lot of nice guys. Like, everybody is trying to like make sure that everybody gets their role on the team. And I think that can be a good thing as far as Pat, assimilating into the offense and the flow of what the team wants to be and their identity. But I think that it helps just having those veterans continue to push him, because I think it's there, like the skill is there. But I think, it just remains to be seen what he's capable of doing. That being said, I think if we start the year and we go throughout the year and he's putting up close to 14, 15 points a game, maybe 7 rebounds, I think that's a goal. Those are goals that are attainable for him.
Yeah, I think we haven't seen enough of him since he was like injured pretty much all of last season to say what he is. It's more like what he could be. Like if you take the last game of the season against Minnesota and how he played without DeMar and Zach, it's like if he could be half of that on a consistent basis,
Take that.
then you would know, like, okay, he's a good quality level starter that has potential to grow into more, but right now it's really hard to say what he is at the moment. Look, he's looked good in the pro runs he's been playing in this summer.
Mm-hmm. All those other dudes. It's like these dudes out here putting up 50. Dalen Terry put up 56 points. You know, like that's great. You know, that's fun, but those this ain't the NBA. But I get what you guys are saying. Like I'm optimistic. I will say that he's gonna have a lot of opportunities to show us. And look, if he gets injured again, or if we are still having that questions, his contract is still coming up. So whatever happens or whatever you don't know, you're gonna have to take what you do know and decide if he deserves a long-term contract or not, or otherwise he's going to be restricted. And they're going to see what the market says about him. And that's the reason why I'm putting so much emphasis on him in this season, is because you got to know before that rookie contract comes up. Like you have to know, like how many years consecutively have Bulls done this where we don't know what our top 10 pick does, so we're just going to let the market kind of dictate. Like no, I need to know. Like I need the extension to happen where he's like, okay, I feel comfortable with this. I feel comfortable with this extension going forward for the next, 3 or 4 years or whatever the extension is. Because it's going to be real weird where if we're having the same conversation, except he's about to be a free agent. Now, what do you do? So that's why I'm personally putting a lot of stock into not necessarily what the outcome of this season is be for the team is. I got to know what Patrick Williams is and what he does. And see what they see or what they thought they saw in him when they drafted him. So that's kind of what I'm looking for to the most, I would say, this year is the growth of Patrick Williams.
In the meantime, maybe we can make some shirts that say "Go be something" whenever he has the ball. I don't know, to bring it out of him or something like that.
Go be something, Pat.
Tony, go be something. Tony, we know that you had 30 minutes, but do you have enough time for us to go over just some questions that some of the fans might have?
Oh yeah, let's rock. Let's rock. Let's do it.
Out of here. Okay.
Right. All right. Smoking trees, draining threes. He asked.
What?
Do you like the idea of extending Vucevic? Is it easier to trade him or harder to trade him with an extension?
Well, with his contract coming up, the best situation in terms of trading him will be now. It's not going to be easy to trade him once you sign him, unless it's like a salary dump type situation. It depends on the contract, right? I mean, if it fits, I don't see why not. Like he's still a good player. Obviously he has his flaws, but he's still a pretty good player. Would I be mad if they throw the, oh man, we gotta have, if it's that mentality of we gotta have Vucevic back? I'm not really with that. I would like for them to see, what else can they do at the center position, see what else is out there. Because I don't think he's the end all be all. I mean, we've seen what the real dudes have done to him. The Joel Embiids, the actual dudes. Like we've seen that. We know what that is. But he's still a really, really good player. So if the numbers are right and the years are right, then yeah, I could see him coming back.
Alejandro asks, do you think Dalen Terry can have an IO type rookie season?
He certainly got the confidence for it. He is. All the mental stuff that we worry about with Patrick Williams in terms of confidence and aggressiveness, that is not Dalen Terry. He is with all the smoke. He is here for everything, and here's the cause a disruption. And I'm with that because Lauri didn't really have it, and Patrick doesn't seem to really have that mentality, even though I think Lauri and Patrick are more talented than Dalen Terry. The shooting thing is big for me. Io came in as a form, like he was a decent spot up shooter. Like not saying he was like an excellent pull up shooter. That's something you gradually learn and get better at. at the NBA level. But Io was a pretty okay spot up shooter. That's my thing with Dalen Terry is, can he be that? Can he space the floor properly? Is my thing. And can he use his, physical gifts defensively? So I think it's a lot to expect, the Io season where Io was kind of thrust into starting role and he was still able to contribute on a real level. I think it's tough to ask, I could say word, Dalen to be Io.
And Jason asks, if you had the opportunity to add one additional player to the roster without giving up any of the top 8 players on the squad, then who would that be?
With the caveat of realistically, okay. Man. All the dudes are gone, essentially. That's what makes this question kind of difficult, is everybody's kind of signed right now. And also, here's the thing too. If you're trying to look for players 9 through 10 to contribute to like actual winning, how good is your team actually? Like, are we thinking about 9 through 12? When we're talking about like deep playoff runs. So I don't know if I can, answer that, because those dudes really don't matter in the grand scheme of things if he's excluding top 8 players on the roster. So yeah, I don't know if I can answer that. Maybe Jason, and once he hears this, can throw out a couple at me on Twitter. But yeah, none of consequence comes to mind that would actually matter on a real level.
And Windy City Digits asks, if Lonzo is healthy, is there any scenario where Io starts this year?
No, and I think that's a good thing. If Lonzo's healthy, that cures a lot of the Bulls' issues in terms of pacing, in terms of offensive game flow, in terms of getting out on the break, cures a lot of things. So hopefully that's the case, and you can. The last few years of the Bulls has been kind of role slot for players, where players are put into more prominent positions than what normally on a good team basis they would be in. So sliding Io off the bench is perfect for him, at least for right now. Now, if he starts, it is what it is. You got to produce the second year. This team has expectations now. You got to get with it. But in a 100% carefree situation, Lonzo is a starter and Io never starts, except in spot up duty where somebody might be out or somebody is kind of taking a rest day or something like that. So hopefully that's the case. But if Io is starting, that means something must have gone wrong.
Okay. We're getting closer and closer to the Bulls throwing a party this summer with the Bulls Fest at the United Center. Tony, are you gonna pull up? Or are you producing something for NBC that may be covering it?
Nah. Are you guys going? I'm gonna let it sounds fun. I know G Herbo is gonna be headlining Bulls Fest. I'm a fan of G Herbo. But I'm gonna watch it on social and on YouTube and enjoy it that way. I got so much other things that's happening right now, like planning a wedding. Like it's a lot. So that's kind of been taking up most of my free time. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's a good venture out for the community. And when Bulls do things, out in the community, they do it well. I will say that. So I think it's going to be a good time for everybody that shows up. I just won't be there.
Wait, so you get married?
I am October 14th.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys. Yeah, it's been a fun journey with my fiance. She's great. Love her to death. Love her to life. So yeah, looking forward to that.
What is the worst part of wedding planning?
Sheesh. You always like to think that you know who you want to invite until you actually have to sit down and think about, and it's like more than what you think, and then it's like I only got limited amount of space, so who do I tell no? And you have to have those difficult conversations. That's the hardest part. You'd be like, ah man, I know you thought we had this relationship, but yeah.
Didn't make the cut.
Right, didn't make the cut. Sorry about that.
All right, so we want to thank you for coming on to the show. I know you got a lot of podcasts that you're producing and working on. If you want to plug any of them.
Nah, I mean, nah. You guys follow me on Twitter at the Tony Gill. You'll see all the things. Thank you guys for having me. This is fun. You guys do a great show. You guys made me laugh. That's good. Keep laughing. Keep enjoying it. Hope you guys enjoyed this and what you do. It comes off that way at least. So you're good at pretending if you don't enjoy it. So appreciate you guys reaching out and having me on.
Thank you for coming on time, which is something that we definitely don't know how to do around here. So.
There we go. Full circle. That's comedy right there.
Hey, Tony, thank you.
All right, guys. See you. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Yeah.
We finally got him on at the correct time, and
Oh, there goes Justin.
Justin just dips out.
He said, "Yeah," and then left. He was good.
Justin, he gets our guest time slot wrong, and then he leaves before the end of the show. So, I mean,
yeah, he really did.
oh
Like he
well,
went to go throw
yeah,
up.
that was very unexpected. Like Justin,
Oh, you're still recording.
the show was not
He
over.
probably went to go throw up.
The show was not over. No, Tony said he won't be at the Bulls Fest, but I can tell you somebody who will be, our good friends at Finders Keepers Shy.
Hey.
You can hit up for vintage gear, especially vintage Bulls gear. Find something like the shirt I'm wearing.
Twins.
They'll be there. So definitely be on the lookout for them if you're interested in some dope vintage Bulls gear. Me and Melissa will be there. Justin does not want to get on the flight to come to Chicago. I don't know. He might be back in jail next episode because
You never know.
you never know. I mean,
You never know.
it was an abrupt sign off, so we hope Justin's okay. But yeah, that's our show for this week. We won't have any guest issues next time because Melissa's handling that one. So until then,
You, Adam, we're same time zone, so.
So yeah, you don't know Adam, it's Adam Mean. He will be our guest next week. So until then, go Bulls.
Go Bulls. Wait, you gotta do it in sign language.
Oh yeah, you're right. Go Bulls. Shout out to Dale for teaching us that.
Yay.
Game over. The horn blows.